Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life of Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, Jeanne Omlor. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives, the work of people in my network, the leaders in my network. So these are great leads to those books that have made the biggest impact on their life, their work, their personal life, their familiar relationships, anything that covers all those kinds of worlds. And I want to know which book it is that does just that. And then this series, I cover three categories of books. The first book, the first category where they're covering a book with me that I haven't read. The second category where we're both covering a book that we've both read, whether specifically for the series or we read it before the series even launched. The third category is when I get to talk to an author and or publisher about the book that they're putting out there, what to see what kind of face, what kind of tone, what kind of stories they want to put to that book as they get it out there to the masses. And my guest today is Jeanne Omlor. And Jeanne is a business strategist, multi-seven-figure online business coach, and certified servant leadership executive coach. At 54 years old, she was a solo parent in deep debt and got herself online into $1 million in sales in 17 months without ads, and has since scaled to multi-millions in 5 years. Her company has helped almost 500 businesses to thrive online. She is emotionally connected to helping others prosper as she lived in lack for years herself and overcame that mindset. She's now helping as many people as she can to maximize profits and reach their full potential while being the visionary they're destined to be. Jeanne, thank you so much for being here to me.
Hey, it's great to
Excuse
be
me.
here.
Excuse me. For being here today.
It's great to be
Um,
here.
so Jeanne, who are you today? I went through the great bio, your history, what you've achieved, but who are you today in terms of the work that you're doing on a regular basis with the clients that you work with?
Who am I? Like, how do I turn up?
How do you turn up? What does the work look like? Just to kind of give us
Mm,
a sense of who it is that's sharing this book with us.
got it. Okay, so I have two markets now. My main one is working with coaches and consultants, and I have a small team, and we've been consistently helping coaches and consultants for about 5.5 years or so. And our goal is just to help them to get as many clients as possible that are aligned for them, so they can have worthwhile, sustainable, joyful businesses, because there's nothing better than having a business work, right? So that's that is really the main thing that we do. And of course, I have a few very, very high end clients, um, which is another whole ball game. So how we turn up is I we have group calls that I'm on. I also do unlimited one-on-one calls with my clients. So the philosophy behind what we do in my company is that we just want it to work. So we don't count. We just the mindset is generosity, a generous model. It's not, hey, you come in and you get one of this and one of that, and the picking and the choosing and the counting. I think it's reflective of a good relationship. In a good relationship, you're not counting every single thing you do for somebody. It's just,
Mm.
what do we do? How are we going to make that work? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How did you come to that kind of model, that kind of thinking and mindset when it comes to your business?
Honestly, because there are so many bad programs out there that I've done, and so many there's just a lot of complaints and valid complaints and feedback. A lot of these multi-million dollar coaches, basically they just want to scale. It's just all about scaling, and they're losing heart because people come in, they don't get the help they need. They have to beg. I had to literally beg for help when I did my first online program that I paid for, and then I had to beg again and again. And you just feel like that you're just paying money and you're begging, and I don't think that's the right way to be. I think if you're providing a service, then you should want to help people, and you should make it that all different types of personalities can get helped, and that you make it that it's kind of like a smorgasbord. That, okay, somebody needs more one-on-one, great, they're going to get it. Somebody needs more of that, great. Otherwise, we're just treating people like it's like a factory. Um, Clearly, you have to have systems in place, and you can't completely do a complete customization of everything you're doing, but we do customize as much as we possibly can, make sure it works. So I think it's that I feel like people, um, especially in the online space, well, in lots of spaces actually, I feel like there's a lack of ethics. I mean, there's been a lack of ethics for a long time in the world, but I just feel like there's just this, let's just make as much money as we can online, make money online crowd. And people are sick of that now. They want help. There's a need for people to do well, and I'm mission driven. So I just really am emotionally connected to helping people to thrive. And that's one of my larger, massive transformative purpose on this earth, apart from just coaching coaches, is what really rocks my boat is helping people to thrive, because I didn't thrive for many, many, many years. And when you've been through that, you are emotionally connected when you figure it out. Hey, I figured this out. Really don't want people to go through what I went through. I really do care about shortcutting stuff. And, the number of people I speak with, and we know we can help them, and they're just on the wrong track. And I know it's kind of like, but this does work and we really want to help. But people don't see what I see, and they don't know what I know, and I don't know what other people know. It's kind of like when I'm talking to somebody from another industry, and I know that I don't know what they know. I know that
Yeah.
they have this bird's eye view, and I'm aware of that. And so because I'm aware of how things go, and ads do not work for coaches, but they think they're going to plug in ads because some digital marketer convinced them to give them their money. There's so much going on. And I feel like, how can you really love yourself if you're not truly, truly doing your best, not to try, but to actually help? The word try isn't even in my vocabulary anymore. It's literally not. We shouldn't have the word try in our I'm trying to. It's such a weak word that I've eliminated it from my category, from my vocabulary altogether. Because once you're saying you're trying to do something, it's one step away from, well, I'm trying, but it probably won't work. It's got to
Mm,
be, we are doing this. We are helping you to do this. Not we're going to try. That's
yeah.
not a very big promise with anything. I'm going to try to do better in my relationship, sweetie. I'm going to try to get that to you on time. I'm going to try to be a better this, that, or the other. No, we just do. I feel like if we change the way our language, just change our language. I'm going to do this. I'm doing it. We are helping you. We are doing our best. Um, it just changes everything. It's a growth mindset then. So that's how it came out. I realized, wait a minute, I don't want people to pay us money and it doesn't work. It's got to work. So how do we make it work? Let's just do that. And if that means that they get more attention, so they do. If it means that our profits are a little lower because we're spending a lot of time one-on-one, so it is. But it all works out in the end because it just works. People are happy because it's working. And the business owner, i.e. me, I wouldn't be happy if we weren't producing results for people. So it's tied up a lot about how we feel about ourselves and how we're operating this world. It's not just about making money, and because that's pretty bad way to be living if you just know that you're not actually giving people value,
No,
actually
and I
helping.
grin only because we haven't mentioned in here up until now the book that we're going to cover.
Mm,
But now hearing you talk about your business, the way you look at life at work, trying versus not even eliminating that,
mhm,
now I know what the connection is going to be to the book in a couple minutes.
mhm,
Well, I have an idea.
mm,
But you said so many interesting things about how you approach business, ethics, how it's important helping someone in everything they need instead of having, and I kind of know what you're talking about, like having, instead of having a set package where if
mm,
they need something else, you're like, no, 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 it's not in the package, where it's
mm,
more like holistic in terms of
mhm.
delivering something complete and whole. And it almost sounds like you're a partner to them instead of just a vendor or a contractor.
Absolutely, that's exactly how we see ourselves. It's not just me. I have a team of coaches so that they're covered. And okay, you're having that. Well, I think you should go. Let's get you to talk with this coach on my team that's a specialist on this. Hey, I need that. Sure. You know what? I'll go do. We'll go do that for you. We never promised that. You need a VA. Well, actually, I have a VA. I'll share mine. I did that yesterday.
Yeah.
Already trained. You know what? I'm going to see if she has extra time on her calendar. Save you time. My client was thrilled. We also
Yeah. Just little things like
coached the
that.
VA for save time. He's like, "Wow, thanks. No prob. Doesn't work. We'll find you another one." That's not part of my package. We just do it
Yeah.
because I know we do it better. So why wouldn't I want to save I really want to save people time. Time is money. Time is the most valuable asset in this time is the most valuable asset. If we can save everybody time where they're not, muddling around in the mud for years like I did before I figured this out, it's a gift. It's a true
Mhm.
gift. that you are helping people to save time and money and energy, and also that wonderful feeling of things working. There's nothing better than things galloping along and working. It's just like exhilarating. And I experienced that. I'd love to share that with everybody. I'm a sharer. I'm a sharer. I'm the person that's going to share all the information with all my friends just in case to make sure they know. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? My friends appreciate it, because I don't want
Yeah.
people to miss out on stuff, because I hate missing out on stuff. So because I have deep FOMO, I just always, hey, did you, people do appreciate that when you go out of your way in your relationships to say, hey, you know what, I want to share this investment with you that I'm doing. You don't have to do it, but I love it. When you're not, I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just sharing. This is what I'm doing. It works. Oh, okay. This is a face cream I'm using. I love it. You want to try it? Because,
Yeah.
it goes also for products that I use. So yeah, I mean, it's basically, are you going to settle for just being
Mm.
average, or are you going to really be one of those extraordinary people? Which one will it be?
This isn't the book that we're going to get into in a couple minutes, but have you read the book Unreasonable Hospitality?
No, but I'd love to.
Yeah, it speaks to kind of like what you're mentioning. It comes from a guy who's a well-known restaurateur in New York. I think he's worked
Mhm,
across the country, but it's that similar mindset,
mm.
where you're creating an experience for someone. You're providing for him, obviously, food, the atmosphere, the temperature. What can I learn about you in this conversation? And bring out a cake if I hear it's your birthday or whatever kind of thing
Mm,
that you're into, but it's about that. So obviously his is food and the restaurant experience,
mm.
but just in general, that ability to really listen to people, see what they need, and have them feel seen and feel as if they're being taken care of. Because
That's exactly it.
most businesses don't take care of you.
No, they don't
They
at all. I
they
mean, you're
they
begging,
yeah, they're
right?
delivering for you like the product, the service, and then that's it.
Not even. You have to beg to get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. I literally have hired so many people, and I don't think I've had good service from any of them, really. You have to beg and, "Oh, okay." And they're very nice, some of them, but you have to beg. They don't do it properly. You have to beg more. It's like once you pay your money, then it's like you're held hostage. I've had so many digital marketers that never actually delivered high ticket, never actually ran the ads. You're begging, "Please, can you do that?" It's really a very manipulative and horrid way to, because not only did you pay a lot of money, but now you're wasting your time having to beg. They're putting you in a situation where you're beholden to them when you already paid them. So it's just a
Yeah.
whole terrible manipulative way of controlling people too, which I don't agree with. So I mean, me and my colleagues talk about this. Like, what does it take to? And it's not like they're cheap. Some of the cheaper people actually deliver better. But, I'm always ready that when I pay for some service that they're not going to do it. You have to ask them to do it. You pay, you didn't do it. Okay. Why didn't you do it? I mean, it is across the board, and it's a disease, especially for service providers that are online service providers like tech and, digital marketing and delivering stuff for you. They just think it's okay not to do, and we have to speak out about this because it's not just me. Everybody's seen this. So there's a
Yeah.
problem. There is a problem with an attrition model where they just take money and then, oh, you're unhappy. Then they'll take money from another person and they're just churning. So has to be said. And, you just don't know when you hire somebody.
Yeah, I think everybody has had that experience, and if they don't think they have, the one experience that comes to mind that everybody has had is calling a customer service line,
Mm,
where they either solve your problem,
mm,
or it's your problem, not ours,
mhm,
or somebody solves your problem, and then there's one step above that. Somebody can solve your problem that you have, but there's
mm,
even one step further above that, and it's,
mhm.
we solved your issue, but did you also consider this? Did you also consider
Yeah,
that?
I'm
Did you
I'm
think
not even
about
spoiled.
this?
I'm not spoiled for that. I just want, what I pay for. Like, I want something done. Just please do what you said, and I'm completely happy. I gotta tell
Yeah.
you, it's not just online. I was astounded a few days ago. My daughter went to get fillings, okay? And I had somebody else take her to the dentist. And then she calls me and she goes, "Mom, they put these dark fillings in my mouth. We do not do mercury fillings. I had all mine very health conscious. I said, they put gray fillings in your mouth without asking me? Oh, they just asked me. They asked a child which fillings they should put in her mouth. And I thought, you're not asking the mom what fillings you want in your. They just said, which ones do you want? She said, well, I don't know. I guess, well, these last longer. I guess my mom would want long lasting ones. She's just thinking to me. So now the dentist called me and I said, I'm just very puzzled as to why you wouldn't ask me which fillings I want in my child's mouth before you do it. Oh, well, I said, well, we need to rip those out now and we need to re-drill. And I was astounded that you would ask a child, 14-year-old, which filling should we put in your mouth? You don't think you should ask the mom? I was shocked. I was like, what world are we living in that you just asked a kid which fillings? Your mom's paying for this, and it's the mom. I said, do you realize we have to rip those fillings out because I don't want mercury in my child's mouth? You should have asked me. Oh, okay. Another whole drilling. What is going on in people's minds where they can't ask questions and verify what you actually want without just doing it? That was completely shocking that they would even do that.
And for me, this is the crazy part, is that most of these conversations that could be had, obviously we talk about it in terms of customer service, getting the customer what they need, this and that. But what's incredible is that the way that you follow that path, the way that you handle that path with your customer impacts your business. It comes back to your business. It doesn't exist in a silo. If you piss this person off, if you turn them off, it's going to be a ripple effect through their contacts, through their friends, through their network.
Yes.
It's just incredible how, okay, if you don't feel it in the moment, whether you're a manager, a boss, a sales manager, whoever it may be, if you don't feel it in the moment, if it's not a part of you to give somebody a great experience, okay, fine. But at least think about it from a business perspective, that is going to ripple into your business community.
Yes.
That's the crazy part
Now
is,
let's but communication goes both ways. Let's now talk about the other side of things. If your clients don't, now I'm a communicator. When something's wrong, I'll say, hey, I need help, please. And I'm begging because I'm not going to just imagine they can read my mind. On the other side of things, you have several, not a lot. There are clients that cannot say, hey, I need help. And then they say, well, why didn't you help me? Well, you didn't tell me you needed help. So there's all of that. It gets down to communication all around. The dentist didn't communicate with me. She just thought, I'm lazy, ask the kid, which is completely not ethical to ask somebody who's in there, who's not the one that's the mom, what do you want in your mouth? That's not her choice. It's the parents' choice what they want in their child, right? It's not an adult.
oh yeah, I mean, it's thinking of that. It's thinking of that bigger picture in this
not an
moment
adult.
with this young child.
You don't ask a
Okay.
kid, what do you want in your mouth? You ask the person paying, which is the guardian or parent, right?
Yeah.
But so that's a communication problem on that side. But if they had asked me and said, which ones do you want? And I didn't reply to them. And then they thought, well, we didn't hear an answer. We're going to go with this. That would be my fault. They should have still checked again. But then they could say, well, we didn't hear. It's still wrong. We didn't hear from you. So we thought maybe your daughter knew. Not good. But I should have then answered and said, well, I want the white ones. Absolutely white fillings. No mercury in our mouths.
Yeah.
Still, then there would be some fault that I didn't respond. If I saw the message, I'd be like, well, they did ask me and I didn't say anything. Still should have asked me. But with coaching, it's very important that we are partners. If you are partners communicate. And if the client needs help, they have to ask for it. We do check in, of course. But if they're like, I desperately need help, but you didn't give it to me, did you ask? No, I didn't. So
Yeah.
can't read minds. But I think there's also a two-way street here of communication. Just ask and you shall receive. In my program, ask and you shall receive. That's it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, there are those moments where if the person doesn't know that the person providing the service can provide different scenarios. Every scenario, every situation is different. Communication definitely is a two-way street. I mean, we've seen it everywhere. Now, Jeanne, to understand how you got here, I'm curious how you got to this thinking, the way you see business, the way you see
Mm.
dealing with people, with customers. To understand how you ended up here, can you tell me about your path from, say, education or when you entered the workforce to now, to kind of get a sense of
Mm.
why this person in front of me is the way they are, how you handle your business, how you carry yourself.
Mm.
Because some of the things you've said are just very particular. Like you know the quality of work that you can provide. You've seen things in your life, in your career.
Mhm.
So what did that path look like from when you entered the workforce, left college, whatever it may be, to now?
Well, it's funny, everybody's just living their lives. We're all just living our lives and we just sort of take it for granted. Like that's just my pathway. But when I do think about it, which I don't think a lot about it because I'm like a heads down person too. But now that I'm not having to keep my head down like this anymore, um, you know, our lives do form who we are in one way or another. They truly do. They really do in one way or another. And everything that we go through, we're either going to uh, develop from it, or we're going to get bitter from it, or we're going to get stuck in a pattern from it, or we're going to grow from it. Whatever. There's going to be some development or lack of development or stuckness or growth. So we also have a personality that won't change unless we're beaten down or something bad happens or become a more positive person. But generally, I'm just a very curious person. Very curious. I ask questions where nobody else would ask. I want to know why, what, and how. And also, I'm very curious about the world. Always very curious about the world around us. Now, we moved from America to Australia when I was 7 years old. That opens up a whole world of possibility for a 7-year-old, like that you can move across the world. You just do it. You just moved. My parents moved 10 children across the world because they decided they didn't want to live in the States anymore for various reasons. So this makes your mindset think, oh, anything's possible. We just moved. We just did it. We just moved. So that when I do something in my life, it's not such a big deal. Like I moved to Florida, and one of my mentors said, "You just moved. You didn't, hey, I'm moving to Florida," and then you were there. She said, "I have a friend, and she talked for months about her move, and I'm going to move, and it's so hard." And she goes, "And you're like, yeah, I'm moving." And then the next thing we hear, you're in Florida. You just did it. Of course, it was, things to do. She said, "I just love that. You don't talk about it." I said, "We just got to do stuff." It wasn't easy to move. It's never easy to move, right? To all of that. And I have 2 kids and I'm a single mom. And she's like, "You just did it." She goes, "I love that." And I thought, that's right. Some people talk about it. It just becomes so sludgy. So anyway, that's the thing was we moved. Okay. That was the first mind possible. If you want to just move, you move. Um, and then I studied fashion design. Okay. That was what I went to college for. And I became a fashion designer. I'm pretty artistic. And I didn't like the industry. I thought it was all about art. And that was before I was a business person because I was just young, just so much more about not art, so much about business. And I was not like a business person. But I got a job, I got various jobs and I was given pretty responsible jobs for a 23-year-old. Like I was the quality controller and production manager for a company. And I got jobs that were pretty, very high responsibility for a 23-year-old. And I had a lot of older people I was their boss. There's problems with that in the workforce with somebody really young because the older people don't like it. So, I could do the job, but I didn't have the maturity to be able to manage older people because they just played me,
Mhm.
and I ended up thinking I don't want to do this anymore because they're just mean, So, and I thought I just want to travel. So I quit that and I'm just going to travel. And I wanted to be an actress. So I started studying acting along the way. And I just was so curious about other cultures. So I just gave all my clothes away and left Australia and started traveling. And it's just one big adventure. It's just one big adventure. Life for me is an adventure. It really is. I have to be more responsible about that. But if to me the world is your oyster, I just thought there's all these countries out there and all these people to meet. And so that's been my driving force is this curiosity and that life is you just make it one adventure. Was it all great adventures? No, I had some really hard things happen to me, hard times, but it was still an adventure. So then I was poor because I had the starving artist kind of like bohemian, oh, isn't this fun kind of thing going on? But I went through that. Most people would never explore that side of me. So I went through all that, and I'm not sorry for it. Um, I could have skipped all that and ended up kind of doing what I'm doing now anyway, or worked for companies, but I wouldn't have had all that growth. And in the end, I came around and became a successful business person anyway, but I have all of that knowledge of what it is to be poor, what it is to live on the edge and just kind of be artistic. So I did all that in Paris. I lived in a maid's room, across the street from the Church of Saint Sulpice with no running water. And it was fun for a while, and then it wasn't fun. And I was translating, it's fun for a while thinking, oh, it's kind of like, oh, it's so exciting to be, George Orwell's Down and Out in London and Paris and London. It's like that, bohemian kind of thing. But then it's not fun. But that romanticism about like living a very Spartan, frugal life, there's something to that. I mean, there was something refreshing that I owned nothing. I was a minimalist before it was a thing. I had a mattress on the floor and one chair and a few clothes, and I would go get free clothes from like the Goodwill. They would give free clothes away to poor people, and I'd just go get those clothes. I didn't care. And I was just being artistic and meeting fascinating people and teaching English and doing stuff. So all of that teaches you survival, and it teaches you very basic critical thinking and how to adapt to any situation. And adaptation is the primary intelligence of human beings. And I developed the primary intelligence of human beings, which is adaptation. That's a fact. So that is valuable to learn how to adapt on a dime. I was doing that, and then I finally thought, okay, this isn't fun anymore. I'm going to move to New York. Well, I had an American passport, but I didn't even have a Social Security number. And at this point, believe it or not, I wanted to pay taxes because I was tired of not existing because I was clandestine. I was an illegal alien over there, but they kind of sort of let us stay there, even though. So I moved to New York. I thought I'm going to do this acting thing and started just getting odd jobs. But it was actually hard moving to America because I was actually an immigrant. And even though I spoke great English and everything, I thought, this is not easy. I thought I was just going to go there and get offered all these jobs. Well, no. And I ended up getting some jobs. And then by accident, while I was doing the whole acting thing and the auditioning and everything, I got a job for Wall Street as an executive recruiter because of my voice. And the guy was like, I just love your voice. You're so cultured. And this is what we were looking for. And I'll just teach you everything. And I said, I don't know about stocks and bonds or Wall Street. We'll teach you. I said, okay. And I got this job and I was really good at it. And then I was actually, without trying, he said, you're the most talented recruiter I've ever met in my life. And you're not even trying. So I'm good at communication. And that was interesting for me that I didn't have to try to be good at something. I always try so hard. And then I just did that, doing the acting thing, getting a bit pieces here and there. And then I got better consulting gigs with that. And I became, quite a top executive recruiter for Wall Street, hiring investment bankers while I had my creative side always on the side. And I always negotiated 4 or 3 day work weeks to make sure that I could have a full life. So that's kind
Jeanne,
of, yeah.
what do you think he saw in you? What do you think it was from your past that contributed to the value that he saw in you for recruiting on Wall Street?
Well, first of all, they realize that actors are very smart because actors adapt. And actors are survivors, and they've done all sorts of jobs. And a lot of them we're highly educated because we are always developing ourselves. We know all about dramaturgy. We study history. We have to study all sorts of stuff every time we're in a role. We are also putting ourselves in other people's shoes nonstop because an actor is always assuming another role, and that makes you understand other people better than anybody else. We're better than psychologists. We are psychologists. And also the fact I had a sort of bit of a French accent, and like living in Paris is really an education in art history and history, and I'm also extremely interested in art and all that. And also I spoke French, and just he sensed I left a voice message, and he listened, and he immediately left. You remember the voice messages? You'd have to call in and get your voice message in the old days. I called my message service because I didn't have a cell phone. And he's like, oh, I got your message. And okay, this is not like, cheesy sales. It's called executive recruiting. And I really want to meet you. I really, really want to meet you. I love your voice. You sound like perfect for this job. And He had thousands of voice messages, apparently. And he just liked my voice. He said, "You sounded so cultured and intelligent, and I want you." So I went in, and he goes, "Okay." It was so funny because I had to go buy a suit from Strawberry, which is a really cheap place. I had no suit. And I happened to be staying like at a friend's place in Brooklyn that was rat infested. And I was like, wasn't sleeping because I'd be hearing the rats. And I was like, it was like really gritty. And so I went there, I was bleary eyed because I hadn't slept all night. And I thought, I got to get out of this place. I bought this suit, and I'm just like really tired. And she's telling me all about it. I'm like, okay. And I was like, I don't know if I can do a good job. I don't know anything about Wall Street. And he's like, "No, you're going to be fine." I said, "Well, I don't know anything. I'm very, very scrupulous." And I said, I worry I might not do a good job. And he's, "No, you'd be great." And I said, "Well, I don't know." And he looks at me, and he looks to the side, and he said, "This is like a Seinfeld episode." He says to himself. And Seinfeld was actually just ending at that point. It was 1998. And then he goes, "Look, you're going to be great. I will train you. Are you trying to convince me not to hire you right now?" And I said, "No." "Then you're hired." I said, "Okay." And you have to understand, I just turned up in New York. I was kind of just lived in Paris for 6 years. I was kind of shy. It's like an introverted kind of society there. So I took the job. And then I
Yeah,
got
I
better.
can't imagine what that was like,
It was
going
interesting.
from yeah, oh, absolutely. But just that transition from the carefree, artistic, existence in Paris to Wall Street, to that chaotic scene, to that hustle and bustle kinda thing.
Well, we were working for Wall Street, so we had a pretty calm office, actually
Okay, okay.
on Lexington, in the Channon Building on Lexington Avenue. But, um, it was thrown from an art I was yeah, it's true. I was very artistic, and I had to then be businesslike, and I could do it because I'm an actress. And after a week, he said, "You are the most talented executive recruiter I've ever met in my life." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, you just get it." So, and there's a lot of acting, like you're pretending you know what you're talking about at first.
Yeah,
And he would just review the notes and explain, and I slow bit, he liked my manner, and he liked the way that I communicated with people and the politeness. And he said, "These Wall Street people, we want them to talk with people that aren't like, 'Hey, you want to get a job?'" He said, "We don't want that. It's much higher level." So that was interesting. But you're correct. It was the first time in my life I ever actually had culture shock. I did not have culture shock when I moved to Paris. I had culture shock, a different language. When I moved from Paris after 6 years to New York, I had literal culture shock for about 3 months. I was in like a weird kind of daze, like, who are these people, and why do they act so strangely?
New York.
Yes,
Uh,
New York.
so was your family creative? Is that what drew you to ultimately on your path, ultimately to well, before New York, Paris? What was it that drew you to that artistic I know there was the whole kinda get up and go lesson that your family taught you when you moved to just go, just try it, just get going.
Mm.
But what was it that drew you to Paris, ending up there, living that kinda lifestyle? Were your parents artistic or
No, my grandmother was an artist, and I really, that was it. That was the starving artist life because she never had any money.
Yeah,
And I think it was that romanticism. And my dad would say, "You're just like my mom." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just like your mom." What does that mean? Little did he
yeah,
know that meant a lot of things for me, right? But that kind of
yeah,
was it. It was like, yeah, I want to be just like my grandma. But but I wasn't so into getting married like she got married. I got married much later. But Paris, I just loved anything French. I thought, "I'm gonna go to Paris. I'm gonna live in Paris because it's just so romantic, Paris.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'm gonna speak French." And, it wasn't romantic in a lot of ways, but Paris is amazing even with no money. And I met a lot of interesting people there and learned a lot because French people just share a lot about culture and history and art history, and they're obsessed with it. Not obsessed in a bad way. Um, so it was very interesting, but then, as I said, I thought, "What am I doing? I really need to do something now." Um, but it taught me a lot about, um, taking time to have coffees with people, and a lot of my time, I was just in cafes, meeting friends,
Yeah.
and trying to survive. And there was something good about we were go, 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 but it was still people take time there to meet with their friends, it's important. Then I go to New York, and it was way less important.
But there was a deeper appreciation for that habit that you picked up of.
Yeah, like in Paris, you hang out with your friends, you have dinner with them. You don't go, "Oh, I'm too busy to have dinner." The culture is that you're always dinner, cafe. It's no, I don't have time to have a coffee with you. We fit it in because it's so important. And just sitting
Mm.
around in a cafe and meeting with people. Then in New York, it was very go, 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 and everybody's so busy, busy, busy. And I was like, wow, people don't take time to. I used to have people over for dinner, and they'd be like, "Wow, I'm so glad you're having us over." And nobody did that. So I'm not talking about high end, dinner parties in New York. I'm not talking about that. That's different, right? Um, but I was just like, yeah, these people, they don't spend time to have. Then I did have friends that we would get it, have it,
Yeah, but
coffee
as
here
a
and there, but
culture, as a society, as
mm,
an environment, it wasn't the same.
no, no, and I spent a lot I spent time that people probably thought would be a waste of time, but I don't see it that way because I had that time where I wasn't go, go, go every single minute, and that's valuable.
Yeah, conversations I've had in here, it's amazing what your past brings to your present and your future.
Mm,
That sounds simple, but
mm,
it's incredible how the people that are in their greatest success today dealt with the minimal as yourself. Just
mm,
a quick note, right? Maybe
mm.
poor word, but your minimalism, right?
Yes.
There were other people that had traumas, there were other people that had loss.
Mhm.
But then from that far extreme of their past, they're maybe overcompensating, they're overcorrecting and killing it in the world today.
Right, and
It
we're not
shows
done.
them it just
Yeah,
shows them this.
yes, but that
How would
wasn't
you
it. That wasn't it. Very hard times after I had my kids and having no money and be in deep debt. So there are various, they always say, "Oh, when was the turning point?" I'm thinking, which one? Because
Yeah. Okay,
it
so
yeah.
from the recruiting position, why don't you walk me through that just so we can get a sense of who you were from then to now and hear a couple more of those
Okay,
stories
that
if
was
you
a long
could?
time ago. I mean, that was, 9/11 is when we all lost our jobs with that after
Yeah, me
9/11,
too.
right?
Yep.
Right? Because there was no recruiting going on, and almost all of the Morgan Stanley people perished in that disaster.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was in the
Um,
city that day, yeah.
yeah, I actually, luckily, I was in Paris shooting my first short film when it all happened, even though I was living in New York.
Yeah.
But I had to call everybody up just to see if they were alive. It was a horrible job to do. I was in tears
Yeah.
all the
No, I can
time.
imagine.
So, but then from there, then I went back to like I'm just doing acting work and trying to live off that, and then I got married, and I was still doing a little bit of consulting. But then I really devoted my time for a few, like 3 years. I'd say I didn't work just to my kids, and yeah, 4 years actually. It would have been that I didn't work. I was because I was an older mother, and I'm going to take care of these kids. So I put a lot of importance on being a mother at that point. Just I'm just going to do this right because when you're a mother at an older age, they're called precious births or precious pregnant. That's what they call them.
Yeah.
So not that everybody else isn't precious, but we see it that way. It's like, oh, finally did this. Um, and so yeah, from there, and then I ended up flying solo. Let's just say. Um, and that created another whole thing. I had to start all over again, but with two kids. Um, so another thing. And I mentioned some pretty bad times there. I don't want to go into it, but anyway, coming out of it, I thought I got to make this work. I got to work this out because I was in deep, deep, deep debt. We moved to another city, and luckily we got out of New York 2 years before COVID. That was a godsend. Who knew that was going to happen?
Right.
So I was very grateful that that was providential. That wow, we got out 2 years. I would not want to. I would not have wanted to be in New York City with two young kids. My friends were stuck in their kids were stuck in the apartments for months. They didn't even leave the apartments. Stir craziness. They didn't want their
Mm.
kids on the streets. So anyway,
Where were you guys?
we moved to Cincinnati.
Okay. Okay.
So we were there, and it was a very good place to be during COVID, actually. Very good place to be. So that was lucky. But I at one point I just thought that's it. I've got to work this out, and I just out of sheer frustration, 'cause I wasn't in a happy place. I have to work. I just have to work this out. So I did. I got online and I figured out how to get clients with no ads. And I thought, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to say this is hard. It's the only way forward now. And I knew that it was a gift. I know an opportunity when I see it. And organic social media marketing is a huge gift if you just do the work. So I did that. And people were like, how did you do that? And I showed them and built it up. And it's still working. And it's really the only works is organic marketing now, because ads do not work for coaches anymore. They just don't. They
Yeah.
made sure they work.
So, Jeanne, does it make sense from your childhood that this is what you're doing? I always try to connect or have my guests reconcile who you were as a kid, the type of kid you were, the dreamer you were as a kid, whatever it may be. What part of that still exists in you and the work that you're doing? How do you reconcile that? Can you connect the two?
Well, yeah, I've always loved art and I still paint. So I'm not, I love it that I'm still doing that. And part in my mind, I always thought, I'm going to be older and still painting. And then I didn't paint for ages. And I thought, you know what? I am still painting. And I started again. And it's just something I can pick up, or all these paintings in the background are mine.
Just about to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like I don't have to make it my life, but I can still do it. Right. I always loved singing. I still sing. I'm classically trained, actually. I always loved singing, so I still sing. It's not about doing what you're doing as your life, everything. It's just the fact you're doing it at all is valuable.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
Do
a
you know
very
what I
good
mean?
point.
It's
Like,
like,
because we strive through life, we strive through university or school,
mm,
or we got to get to that one thing. We got to get to that one success,
yes,
that one thing that's going to define me, that's going to cement my legacy.
mm,
And as I've gotten older and I've compared notes with other people, like we just realized what you said just a couple of minutes ago, where you can enjoy different things, that the
yeah,
enjoyment is in the journey and trying different things and
yeah.
living a diversified life, if you will.
Yeah, I don't have to paint for a living and sell them.
Yeah.
I could if I wanted to really put more time into it. Sure. Do I want to? I don't know. It's exciting. Maybe I do later. I don't know. Does it matter to me? All these questions. I just like doing it and I like putting them on the wall. So there's that. Well, let me think. Um, I think there is a correlation, because my dad used to say to me, there's no flies. There's no flies on you, but there's no flies on Jeanne. Okay. And that's a Texan thing. Have you heard that before? There's no flies on somebody?
No.
Because you can't fool them. Like, I should come up with stuff. And he goes, well, there's no flies on you, meaning, the fly wouldn't be able to land on you because you're moving around so much. And you're not going to let that fly land on you. I think it's Texan sayings. I heard some other Texans say it. And then he'd say to me for a joke, well, I'd say things and he'd go, how did you know that? And I'd say, I just know, and he'd say, well, you're just physic, aren't you? He'd joke about the word psychic. Okay. Aren't you just physic? And so there were certain things that he would say that when I look back, he saw stuff like, how did she know that? I'm pretty intuitive. And I think to coach people, it's good to be intuitive. It
Mhm.
helps, does help. So there's that. I've always wanted to help people. I'm always an oversharer. This is how you do this. You need some help here. I'll help you. There's this thing where I find it almost painful to watch people do something where I could help them and not say, that I don't withhold information. I would feel bad if you're saying, oh yeah, I don't know how to do that. And I know, and I'm like, well, this is how you do it. Or I'm
Yeah.
looking for this person. Well, I know that person. I find I can't help it, because I would feel mean withholding something that I have as information when I
Yeah.
could just say, well, actually, here's the answer. So that is part of my personality. And I know a lot of people do not operate like that, because I'm astounded when I find out that somebody knew something and well, why didn't you just tell me? Oh, I don't know. I didn't know if you'd want to know, And I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? So there's that. And I don't know. And I'm kind of bossy. My dad used to say to me, you're very organized and kind of bossy, and I don't think it's good to be bossy as a coach, but it's certainly good to take things under control and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. X,
Yeah,
Y,
for
Z.
accountability purposes, yeah, it's good to wear that hat. Um, had a question I was gonna ask. I was curious where it'll come to me. I apologize. All that being said, everything you've shared up until now, what do you consider your superpower? And I think maybe you've already shared it. Maybe you just have to clarify this one thing is what kind of sets me apart.
once I know that I should, would, want to do something, that's the plan, I just do it. That's it. I just do it. That's a gift. Instead of, oh, I think I want to do that and then overthink it. No, no, no. Once I figure that out, because you need to figure, you can't do everything. Like once you figure out, okay, this is the next step. That's it. Boom. Go do it now.
Yeah.
Not, oh, I think I'm going to do that and I'm going to wait. And of course, I'm developing things that I'm not ready to start yet because they're not quite like, I don't have the true direction yet of how to go do that. But so
Yeah.
people say to me, "Wow, you weren't doing that," and all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I've
Not
been
all of a
thinking about
sudden.
this for a while, and then
Yeah.
they just see me act on it.
You're not reckless in your execution.
Well, I can be. No, I can be
Well,
because
okay, when it
there's
go ahead.
value in massive, messy action sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Because if you don't make it messy sometimes, you're gonna overthink it. You're gonna get your ducks in a row. Getting your ducks in a row is the worst thing you could possibly do ever. I mean that. I know nobody talks about this, but you don't get your ducks in a row. I joke with my clients. I don't get ducks in a row. That means you're overthinking it. Analysis paralysis. No, you don't get ducks in a row unless it's certain things like, you're going to immigrate to another country. Then you got to get your ducks in a row. But for
Yeah.
business stuff, I tell my clients, I get one duck up there and I shoot it and they laugh. Just the duck's gone. So
Yeah.
I think that's my gift is the massive, messy action. I just do it and I'm figuring it out as I go and I'm course correcting and it's putting your foot in the door to get the foot in the door and then you can inch that door open. This thing of overthinking stuff and not taking action and taking forever, you're wasting your life and your time out of what? Fear.
Yeah.
It's all fear-based.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say, that's what my mind was going to is just that over preparation.
Mm,
Like you said, paralysis, over analysis, paralysis.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it all comes down to this idea that we're not, and it's come up again in this series as well. We don't think about life as experimentation. We think
Yes.
of it as we have to do something and it has to work because everybody's watching.
Mm.
You can't pull the curtain back. You can't show them how it's made or that like you said, when your friend was like, wow, that was quick what you just achieved. It's like, no, there was a lot of shit that went on behind the curtain that you didn't see.
Right, and also I deliberated as which direction, but not forever, but, "Okay, I'm gonna develop this. Yeah, I'm gonna" like, when I became a coach, they said, "Wow, you just became a coach," and I said, "No, no, no, no. I'd been wanting to be a coach, but I couldn't do it because my life was not authentic. I could
Hmm.
not do that until I got myself to a point where my life was not successful, but at least I was being true to myself.
Very good point.
I cannot fake, and now I can do this because I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I am all on my own. I have no money and I'm doing it. Now I can truthfully say I'm a life coach because
Yeah.
I did it, wasn't a very successful, but people resonated with that. Wow, you just
Yeah,
do.
because you are your own case study. I mean,
Yes. Yes. And people value courage. They value that you did whatever it took to live an authentic life, even if you're broke.
yes.
At first, and there's value in that because you're not faking it. You're like, "Look, I know this is gonna be hard, but that's my decision, and I'm gonna do that no matter what. That's authentic. Is it a good decision? It's the one for me. Is it perfect? No, but it's the one I'm gonna do because it's the best decision right now." That's what I do. And then you make your bed and you lie in it, okay? And you make the bed as nice as possible. And you upgrade it, and you get
Yeah.
a bed like the one I have now that goes up in the back and the top and vibrates and all sorts of stuff and massages you. So my bed's really good now. I'm joking, but I'm not. So the point is, I think the talent is I'm just going to do this. That's the plan. How do I do it? Who do I ask help? What is the plan? How's that going to work?
How do I learn? What do I refine?
No, just what do I do? And who do I get help from? Not, oh my goodness, I'm going to do that. Oh, but I'm so scared and I'm going to think about it for another 5 years. I'm going to do that, but oh, I might fail. None of that. Zero. It's just how. And you know what? Business is just a bunch of tests. You remember that business consultant, Alan Weiss, that wrote a bunch of books on business
Yeah.
consulting?
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I first started coaching, I read a bunch of his books. And the one thing in one of his books that was the most valuable thing that I've ever read about business was he said, people don't understand that business is just a series of tests. You are just testing nonstop and looking at the results and then taking those results. It saved my life. I was like, wow, you just took all fear of failure off the table for me.
Yeah. And that's something that I want to see instilled in younger people. Not that it's going to solve all their problems, but it would have helped. I mean, listen, we all got to where we are because of the trials and tribulations and the crucibles that we went through, right? But I mean, I think it would ease some anxiety in life and society if people were more comfortable with just experimenting. And I think some of those lessons, listen, even if we told them that, it's like other advice we give kids, they're like, whatever,
Mm,
because it doesn't hit them until they've lived it and experienced it. But there's power in teaching just that testing,
mm,
experimentation. Go back to the drawing board. Who cares if it didn't work, you know?
right.
Don't limit yourself because what you're afraid of what other people are judging you on or talking
You know,
about. I
that's
never understood that at all.
I don't know, but that's just human nature. And quite
Yeah, of
frankly,
course.
I honestly, the only people I care about that they think of me, how they think, are my family and friends and people I respect. Like, well, I don't want them to think I did that because I didn't, because it was a misunderstanding, blah, blah, blah. But as far as what people on social media think of me, people have asked me that. How can you do that? I'm, I'm literally, I've never even given it a thought. Like it hasn't even given, I haven't even passed that through my thought process.
Yeah,
They say, "What do you?" I said, "I don't think about that at all, not at all." So, what do you think about when people blah blah blah? I don't care. I'm
yeah,
doing my path. It's working. I'm helping people. I love my life. Take it or leave it. You can be
yeah.
nasty if you want. It doesn't affect me at all. Not at all. Because I don't care. Literally, I don't care. My kids joke about that because I don't understand why people are so interested in other people's lives as far as like gossip. I just don't get it. I don't have time for that. It's just
I
not my
don't
thing.
know.
And I made the comment.
I
I
think
said,
it's fascinating. I wanna go inside their mind and understand what it is that gives them dopamine hits by talking about somebody else's life. I don't get it
no,
at all. It's
I think,
fascinating.
what I mean is, I don't get why people gossip about like why they bought this car or what they're doing. I don't care. I don't have time to insert myself into other people's lives and what they're doing on a day
Yeah.
to day basis. I have my own life and I'm the star of my own life and you're the star of your own life. It's like a movie. I'm the
Mhm.
star of my own life. You're the star of your own life. Why would I want to be in your movie? Like that's your movie.
My
I think
movie's
that people are
okay.
trying to insert themselves as the stars in other people's lives, and that's
Yeah,
wrong.
that's a good way to put it.
Got your own life. Stick to it. So, no, what I mean is, I just don't see the value and the time. I don't care if it's a friend of mine and they're telling me something. Sure, I care, but I'm not going to sit and go, "Why did that person do that?" And I'm fascinated that they have time for that. So I said to
I
my daughters one day, I said, "I don't get it. Why would they care about why I rented this car or blah blah blah?" And I said I literally couldn't care less. And my daughter just cracked up. She said, "Mom, you are literally the last person in the world that would care about that stuff." I agree. She goes, we tell our friends, my mom is the absolute
yeah,
opposite of a busybody.
yeah.
She does not care. And I said, well, that's true. I don't. So they're learning that I don't gossip about, busybodying in other people's lives is such a waste of time and energy.
I always see that in some way as those people haven't having not found what they're meant for. We're all different. We all have different callings. We all have different destinies, but I don't know because I think one of the major things that delineates those people versus their opposites are just we're in this world to get what we need, to work for what we want, to achieve what we want. And I think most of us are just so focused on that. It just doesn't even occur to us to insert ourselves in somebody else's life.
No, the people do insert themselves. As soon as somebody's telling you what you should do with your life and giving you unsolicited advice,
No, that's what I'm saying, where
yeah,
you and I can't relate to that
I
because we're
can't.
just so
No,
busy doing what we wanna do, what
exactly.
we're setting out to
Exactly.
do. It just doesn't
Also
even occur to me.
also, it's
What value do
disrespectful.
I Yes, yes. Oh,
It's
yeah,
completely
that's
disrespectful. I do see it that way.
yeah.
My friend and I, years ago, we thought of this, and I said, "Yes, like, I'm the star of my own life. Okay, I'm the starring role in my own life, right? So, why would I Now I want to be the starring role in your life by busybodying, giving you advice, or trying to sway you in certain ways. I don't know. And I've seen it that way for many, many, many years, and I'm very respectful that I'm not the star of your life. You're it.
Yeah.
Let's leave that one alone, right?
Jen, why don't we jump into the book?
Mm.
Can you introduce the book, how you came across it, and then we can dive into the book itself?
Sure. Now we're talking about psycho-cybernetics, right?
No, I think you wanted to cover Antifragile,
Oh, that's right. Okay, because I was
which
yes. Okay, phew. Because I have several very favorite books. You're right. It was Antifragile. Okay, I love this book. Absolutely love this book.
and that's why I mentioned before where I kind of understood why you would wanna go with this route
Mm,
based on what you were telling me about your
yes,
career and just getting things
yes,
done, and so
yes.
that's why this made sense. Okay, go ahead, I'm
Okay, I
sorry.
love the book because they figured out in nature that when you put stress on organisms, they actually become less fragile. So, if you put stress on your body in a good way, you are building it. Like if you weight lift or do the exercise, you're actually strengthening your body by challenging your body and you're becoming less fragile. If you treat your body like it's a precious, I mean, well, you want to treat it like a precious object, but if you treat it like you're not going to work out because you don't want to over stress yourself, you're actually becoming more fragile. That's
Mhm.
a fact of nature that you will put stress on organisms and it creates more anti-fragility. Okay, that's the interesting thing. What I love about the book that is that we've got to stop babying ourselves. Okay, we've got to stop babying ourselves. We've got to stop teaching weakness in our culture, which we are teaching weakness right now in our culture. We're not teaching grit. We talk a lot about grit and resilience, but really it's not the major factor. It's all about, oh, I'm so triggered. You can't trigger me. Oh,
Mm.
don't say that. You're triggering me. You know what? Triggering somebody actually makes that person think. So they will take an action and change their lives. So it's creating anti fragility. But babying people, we're not allowed to trigger. Well, life is a bunch of triggers. That's just
Yeah,
life. So if
yeah,
we don't want to, we'd better just live in a glass box. But that would
agreed.
trigger them too, because the glass box would trigger them. So literally, there's no way out of that conundrum. I figured that out. No way out of it. And if you trigger somebody, bad person, you just triggered me. Oh my goodness. Now the other thing is everything is a trauma. No, not everything is a trauma. I just had a person on my pod that she talks about this. She's a psychologist, and she said the problem is that everything is framed as a trauma now. Oh, you're just
Mm.
traumatized. That's not true. There is real trauma. I've been through real trauma, absolute real trauma. All of us have been through some trauma, but not everything that's unpleasant is a trauma. And if everything that's unpleasant is framed as a trauma, it's all in a basket. Now it's just trauma, label, trauma,
Yeah,
bad. Not, you know what? Going through a hard time right now. It's a hard life passage. And, we all go through hard life passages that we feel like it's traumatic, but it's still just a hard life thing. But if it's all trauma, we're labeled as just it's traumatic and bad. So I love the book. I love the book because the guy who wrote it, Nassim Taleb, is highly cultured. This fellow spends most of his time reading. Okay,
mhm.
brilliant. And I don't think there's any person that spends as much time reading and educating himself as this fellow. And that's interesting that somebody like that, because I don't have time to read as much as he does because I have to run a business and have kids and all that stuff. It's interesting that when somebody has done a lot of the reading for you, not that we shouldn't read for ourselves, but he's compiled a bunch of information and put it into a book. I'm not saying not to read and to let other people read for you, but I know that I'm not going to be able to do that amount of reading because I don't have the
Mhm.
time he has and the thousands of hours he's put into reading. He's also an investment person, but I just think that it's fascinating that it helps us to not baby ourselves, and it's scientifically proven, just from an organism point of view, and it is showing us that we can do better by being more resilient, being more gritty, and it's a good thing. It is a good thing to be a beast. It's not bad. You're not. Now, I'm not saying you have to burn yourself out because there's always the other side of the story, but you
Yeah.
psychologically anti-fragile. And my goal is to become more and more and more anti-fragile physically, mentally, and spiritually, actually. So I feel like if we could, I got to read that book again because I haven't read it in a while, but it's so much in it. It's so packed with information and facts and his point of view. I mean, I just love it. And I
Yeah,
think it's forward, really.
I think I picked this up years ago, I think maybe when our first or second son was born, and I started reading it, and it was like when he was a newborn, I think, and I was just like, "I don't have the capacity to commit to this book right now."
Mm,
So, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read the book,
mhm,
but what's interesting is when I read it, when I first started reading it, I don't know, I don't wanna lie and say it felt like it was like 7 years ago, something like that.
mm,
When I read it, I understood what it was saying. But then in going through it and just kind of flipping through it today to get to our conversation, it hits different today.
mhm,
It hits different because this is after like this whole thing that's going on in society.
mhm.
This was before
It was
all of
before
that stuff.
COVID.
It
It was before the whole, "Oh, you
the
triggered
whole
me," oh,
yeah.
trauma thing. Yeah.
And what's interesting is I don't know, I always see all different sides of everything, but I have a deeper appreciation for what this book means. That's why I wanna get back to it now, and I'm
Mm,
glad I didn't read it then. I'm glad that I'm gonna read it now with this new
mhm.
lens where, yeah, there is, like, that overkill in society about removing everything that's unsafe.
Well, there's also a book called The Coddling of the American Mind, and it was
Who was the author was on that?
co-authored. The last name is Haidt, Haidt, and then
Okay,
he
I just
co-authored it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and
and
he wrote, The Anxious Generation, which I just read
yes,
in the
yes, I
last
have to
couple
read that.
months.
So there is a theme, and I actually I haven't read these books, but I know about the books because one
Yeah,
person told me they're on my reading list. She said, "You would love that book because everything you're saying," he says in that book, of what is going on here. So I feel like there's this not enablement, a disablement that's different. There's a disablement of people developing and being greedy. And my kids hate when I talk about you got to be more greedy. Oh, mom, we're so sick of hearing that. That's fine. You're going to keep hearing it because I won't have weak children. I won't have children. I want compassionate children they are compassionate that don't think something that's not hard is actually hard because that is not life. And with
yeah,
what's coming up with their generation with AI, we have no idea what's going to come up. And I think they're going to
no,
have to be more greedy and more critical thinking to survive in the world we got come. Who knows what's going to happen with all the robots? I mean, it's now. The future is now. So
yeah.
I do believe there is the survival of the fittest. I truly believe that there is a survival of the fittest. We need to equip people to not be sheeple and to
Yeah.
question and to develop survival skills on all sorts of levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all different kinds of examples. Things that popped up in my head as I was flipping through there, as young as a neighbor taking her kids off of the school bus because they heard something, a bad
Mm,
word or something like that.
mm,
Um, certain things that kids watch on TV. Nothing crazy, but just kind of
mm,
edging on, I guess, what's appropriate for their age.
mm,
All the way up to I was in a discussion with a group and we were talking. I forget what the topic was, but it was along the lines of, oh, Jesus, I don't know. But it came down to censorship in society. And one of my partners in that group, just to put this out there, wasn't, all non-Jewish people, but one of my partners was in the group was Jewish, and we were talking about it was almost like the sanitization of society
mm,
where you wanna banish certain speech, which I completely get,
mm,
but it's kind of like, okay, you don't wanna take away all speech because I told them, "I don't want my kids growing up in a society that's completely wiped of everything. I want them safe, I want them compassionate,
mhm,
but I don't want everything completely scrubbed safe for them." And you want certain things in front of you instead of, lingering off in the shadow somewhere, and sounds dumb that I'm saying this, but my Jewish friend was like, "Yeah, you're right," and it had to do with anti-Semitic remarks that were made. I'm like, to me, You don't want to hide those things. You don't want to censor them. You don't want to oppress them. Like, you need
Mm.
to see that this stuff is out there so that you can argue against it. You can debate
So you can
whatever it may
become,
be, whatever it may
yeah,
be.
you can become anti-fragile. So you can say,
Yes.
well, okay, I heard that, and now what do we do?
And
Um,
and when as I said that on
yeah,
the Zoom call, I noticed Steve, my friend, he was nodding like in agreement.
right,
You can't just because my kids hear something uncomfortable, I don't want them to be taken
right.
away from it. I want them to learn to have a
To learn from it.
conversation with me.
Yeah, I mean, my kids have heard
Yeah.
very racist
Yeah.
things living in the Midwest. I hate to say it. They're
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
that they're
Yep.
all I'm not saying people in the Midwest are racist, but
Yeah.
there was a certain things, and I just addressed it. I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, so" okay, I said, "Yeah, so that person doesn't think the way we think. How do we think, mom?" "Well, we don't think that people from other races are less than us. That's not what we think in this household." "Yeah, mom, I was kinda" they were confused. "I was kinda confused that he said that about black people." I said, "Yeah, well, that's just their point of view. That's what they think. They're allowed to have a point of view. That's their point of view. Our point of view, in this family is not that point of view. Get calm, And they said, yeah, because we were confused about that. I said, yeah, don't be confused. I don't agree. We don't agree. It's not how we think. And they were like, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they said we were very like surprised they said that. I said, yeah, you should be surprised because that's not how I brought you up. So
Yeah.
there's a dialogue then. But then now they know,
Exactly.
okay, some people are racist and some are not, that's all, right?
But, yeah, I mean, to me, if you scrub everything that's uncomfortable,
Mm,
you can't have a conversation with that side.
mm,
Maybe you have a debate, you figure out, okay, it's not worth it. This person's not going to change, whatever it may be. Or so you shut down that conversation. And
mm,
then you also shut down the conversation with the impressionable party. Like, I
mm,
want you to learn from this.
mhm,
Let's have that conversation.
mhm.
And that's a skill that's going away, is having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, but it's also challenging people about their so-called, um, comfort zone. There is no such thing as a comfort zone unless it's just, you sitting in your couch watching your favorite thing and it's this comfort zone about that's different.
Yeah.
But a psychological comfort zone is a prison. It is
Yeah.
not a comfort zone. That just means that icky place where it's familiar, where you're not doing your best because you're not performing at your highest and you're afraid to leave that cage. That's not comfortable. That is familiar and uncomfortable. So I don't call that a comfort zone. I call that a familiar zone that is uncomfortable because deep down, you could do better. And that is killing you from the inside. The most uncomfortable part of my life was when I was like, "Oh, this isn't working, and I know it's not working, and I'm just like, how do I make it work?" And I'm living my life and taking care of my kids, but every day I was so anxious because it was not leading the right path of fulfilling and being as successful as do I think I'm as successful as I could be now? No, but I'm good. I'm on a roll, and there'll be more development, but I'm not frustrated anymore. I've
Yeah.
exploded, but that familiar zone that I was in where I was just trying to figure it out was sheer hell for me. That was not comfortable. That was like, I'm dying to figure out what's the way forward here already because I'll take it. So I think that that's a big disservice to call it a comfort zone. It is a scary, familiar zone that we're stuck in because we're afraid to leave it. And we know inside our souls are dying because we are too afraid to do what we need to do to get where we really want to get. That's the
I mean,
problem.
yeah, it's paralysis by lack of analysis.
Mm. It's just
Uh,
I'm stuck and I'm too scared or too afraid to do this, that, or the other. So I'm just going to call it comfort. But
it
it's not at
Yeah,
all comfortable.
it is crippling because I mean, we can't all exist in this world as it is, and everybody is in their safety zone, in their
Mm.
psychological we just
It's not
can't, like,
safe.
there are
I'm
gonna be
questioning the word
things that
safety.
yeah, I mean, I use it because it's like that common vernacular, but it just there's no way that it can exist where everybody feels that way.
Yeah. And what are you going to do? All you can do is just be yourself and influence the people around you that want to be influenced
Exactly.
and just help. And
Yeah,
if they don't, to me, if somebody gets on a call with me, because I do all my sales still, okay, and they listen and I'm giving them everything. This is it. This is the way forward if you want. Then it's
Yeah.
their choice. And that is their right to choose whether to get out of their fearful zone, because it's always about the fear of spending
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's complete and totally up to them. That is their choice and their free will. But at least I've presented the solution and now they know they have it. And it's their choice. Do I take the solution or I don't? It's a better place than not knowing what there is a solution at all. And from there, they have to take responsibility for their choice. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's just so many instances of waiting for the outside. In life, it's so much the default is almost waiting for success to come to you, waiting for the
Mhm.
opportunities to come to you, waiting for the safety nets or the safety guards to be put up for you. But people forget that next step about working forward, offsetting whatever it is that they see as painful, as a harm, whatever it may be. It's none
Mm,
of this is to say no one can have feelings. None of this is to say you can't be compassionate or sensitive in any way, but it is about really not limiting yourself. I don't know. I just see it as over sanitization.
mm,
And to me, that's scary. I don't want my kids growing up like that because there'll be a day where they leave my house
mm.
and they're going to kind of be in this bubble, and the world's not going to be as supportive, as comforting as I am. It's not
Very
gonna
true.
be,
Very
you
true.
know? Uh, Jeanne, were there any other examples or anything that stands out from the book to you? Anything that you can, provide about the book itself or any kind of anything at all?
Not really. I just, read it. So there's so many
I
facets
was
to
gonna
that.
ask I was gonna ask, how did you come across this book? Where were you in your life and your journey when you came across this?
It was a few years ago, and he wrote another book called The Black Swan, which is also amazing. And I just thought that's my kind of book because I want to be anti-fragile. And it was a few years ago, and I picked it up and I thought, wow, um, very important book, I think. Yes, I
Where
think.
were you in your business or entrepreneurial journey?
You know what? I wasn't yet. I hadn't exploded yet.
Okay.
Okay. So no, it was before and I think maybe it did help me. Like, just do the work. Just got to do the work.
Yeah. Jen, in wrapping up, what are you up to these days that you would like to share? Maybe something I didn't ask, anything that you want to put out there? The floor is yours, anything at all.
I'm trying to figure out because I have a massive transformative purpose for the next 40 years to help as many people on this earth to thrive, no matter what walk of life they're in. So it's not just about coaches. And I'm trying to develop some ways for people to thrive and make money, even if they're not articulate or speak good English or are coaches. So I'm not there yet, but I'm always just researching. And there's this an ongoing research of how, and also I'm living my life more every day. I'm like, okay, I met this person. How can I help them thrive? And it's getting to be more of a reflex now, like just a human being. How can I help them? And I was already doing that, but it wasn't like every time I meet somebody. It's
Yeah.
now, how can I help them? How can I help them? So it's changing my life in a great way. It's who can I help today, apart from my clients?
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask before. You spoke about so many different environments, family areas of the world. And maybe you had mentioned it, but what was it that what do you think drives that in you? The desire to help other people. Where do you think that comes from? Is it having a big family? I don't know.
Well, actually, I'm Catholic,
Okay.
and if you're like a Catholic following the actual Catholic sort of ethics and what you should be helping people,
Yeah.
if because it's about charity, Christian charity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
No, and I only
Jesus,
laugh only
Jesus Christ, Christian, Christ-like charity. If you really want, I'm not saying that I'm the best Catholic in the whole world. I try to
yeah,
be, but what I'm saying is if you really look at what the Christian faiths are about, and Catholic is a Christian faith, okay,
mhm,
um, we should be helping people. We
yeah,
should be Christian. We should be charitable. We should be as nice as we can about people. We should be uplifting them. We should be
yeah,
giving alms to the poor. That's charity, right? And I don't mean like looking down on people or disabling them, but sometimes people need a leg up for goodness sakes. And it
yeah,
shouldn't always be the government. There should be private institutions, charitable institutions helping people. I believe that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it comes from that. My parents were very, they're no longer with us, but they were very good, charitable people, really.
Okay.
So my dad would have given his shirt off his back to people like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So that's good example of two very good parents. Actually, we didn't
Okay.
go into that.
No, yeah, and that was the question I had before. We were talking about creativity, resilience, grit, all the things, but I kept meaning to ask, where was it that that kind of reflex to help others came from? And I
Right.
I get it, religion, and I chuckled before only because I grew up Catholic, and I remember thinking as a kid, I'm not religious now.
Mm,
I will go to church for like the major holidays. I'll
mm,
go to church when my mom wants me to,
mm,
maybe once or twice a year. But
mm.
it's interesting that the most of the lessons on how I treat people, I remember reading in my religion book
There
as
you
like
go.
a 5,
Mm,
6, 7-year old, no,
mm,
4th, 5th, 6th grade, something like that in Catholic
mm,
school,
mm,
and just reading about this guy who helped others, like, it was constantly helping, so that planted a seed in me, and I left Catholic school maybe in 7th grade,
mhm,
and again, I'm not religious, but those stayed with me. So that was a big part of making me who I am and trying to help other people. Like, it just doesn't make sense to not help other people. My parents, obviously, I grew up Catholic. They went to church.
mhm,
My dad always helped people. So that's
mm,
why I'm always curious when somebody puts it that way. This just kind of
mm,
innate
mm,
desire to help other people's, or this ability that you don't even have to
mm,
think about it. It's just natural where that comes from.
mm.
So I
Yes.
appreciate that response. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, but I left that out. Listen, this has been a really great show, and I really do have to take off now. I'm so
Yeah, no,
sorry. I have
I'm wrapping up
I have a
now. No,
yes.
I'm wrapping up now. And again, we shared the book Antifragile: Things That Gain from Disorder by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Um, Jean, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a great, great conversation.
Yeah, it flew by. If there's anything that I might have missed, please let me know. I'll reach out to Jeanne and see what kind of insight, information, additional knowledge I can get back from her. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.